Hi class, this is Kevin Crabb, COM 403. Um, I chose to do my topic of research on theory of priming and how it relates to violence in the media. And so, while reading our book, I came across a really astounding um, statistic, which was that the average male and female by the age of 18 sees 16,000 murders by that age in their lifetime. And so it's kind of crazy that we live in a society where we see this many murders through TV shows and movies and the news and whatever it may be. We see all this um, in our media, and it's kind of crazy that all this goes on in our society. And so, um, one of the things I found that was prevalent in all forms of media was that there was increased aggression levels, whether it was movies or video games or even music. Violent media, as you would call it, um, gave an increase in levels of aggression through the consumers. And so all this violent entertainment um, is a little crazy that we live in this world and we have all this going on. And like I said, the statistic before with the 16,000 murders, it's pretty amazing that all this really happens. And so, to go on with my research, one of the topics I decided to research was video games, and video games are a really big topic in violence and violence in media. And so, with all these games that are coming out and on all these new consoles, everything seems so real. And so we get games such as the Call of Duties and the Grand Theft Autos, and Grand Theft Auto is one of the biggest that are it's under a lot of scrutiny, actually, you could say, just because um, if you've never played it before, you you're in a city and you get to go around and I mean you can just kill people, you get to shoot people, beat them up. You can commit sexually violent crimes. Um, it's just it's a really violent video game, and it pretty much the whole game and the story of what goes on and what you have to do in the game and it's all connected with violence. Everything you do in the game is violence, and so I think that's why it gets so much. It's such a hot topic in especially the video games, and especially now that we have video games are so popular among people from. I mean, you can go from 40 down to age, I don't know, 6. Everybody is playing video games, and these young kids are playing these video games and like Grand Theft Auto, and they're out killing people and doing whatever they want to do in these games. And um, I'm not saying everyone, but I would say especially the younger kids get these ideas that, well, this is normal to do that, and they get these ideas from these video games. Maybe not to the extent that you would do in the video games, and not as crazy, but I mean, maybe they think that some of the stuff is just maybe okay to do, or um, just not as frowned upon as they really think. And so, violent video games can prime, especially young kids, like I said, to maybe commit violent acts. And um, so when playing video games, especially in short periods of time, um, it was found that there's lots of increased levels of aggression when playing video games, and that was just in short periods of time. And so when looking at an extended period of time playing these violent games, it was found that a lot of the people, when doing the research, they were found to have dehumanization and also decrease in empathy or just a couple of effects in extended periods of time when playing these violent games. And that's kind of crazy too, that from playing a video game which was solely for entertainment, um, that we end up getting this effect on ourselves of dehumanization. And I wouldn't say um, that these effects, like I said, dehumanization, loss of empathy, are just to video games. I would say, going back to the statistic that I told you guys earlier, where we see so many murders through our different forms of media, that I would say that we have lost a loss of empathy as a whole in our society, as well as dehumanization, just because we're so used to seeing all this going on. And so it's I mean, I've said it before, it's kind of crazy that all this goes on, and we really don't think that much about it. The topic of violence in the media is getting bigger and bigger, but I wouldn't say it's really, I wouldn't say it's as big as the deal as it should be. Um, I mean, especially with so many school shootings going on, and um, just shootings overall, and just the violence we have in our world today. I would think that we would take a bigger look at what's going on in our media, to see if it really does play an effect. From the research I've found, um, it does have an effect. And like I said, increased levels of aggression. And in the increased levels of aggression, I found that in all forms of media, whether it was the video games or movies or music, all of those, um, when viewing or listening to violent media, gave an increased level of aggression to the consumer. And so it's pretty astounding. And so when I researched movies, and violent movies, um, I wasn't really sure that movies would have that big an effect on people and the violence, just because it's a movie and a lot of people know, well, it's fake and all this stuff going on. But a lot of times, a lot of these movies now are, um, I mean, based on a true story. So I mean, things like this actually did happen that we watched, um, when we go to the movie theaters and stuff like that. But um, one of the things I came across in my research was this quote, that viewing violence that is motivated by protection of oneself or another, or that is an act of retaliation for a past wrong, can increase viewer aggression. So when we think about movies, we a lot of times we have a good guy versus a bad guy, and in the end, the good guy wins, and we're all happy that the good guy wins, because we're not a fan of the bad guy, unless you are in some cases. But a lot of the times in these movies, the good guy ends up killing the bad guy, which is, I mean, why is the bad guy a bad guy? Because he kills people. Well, the good guy has been doing what the bad guy did, but it's okay because he had wrongdoing against them, and it's justified now that he can kill him because that bad guy did something to him. So, well, he can get him back for that now, which doesn't really make sense to me. And thinking about it now, um, it can increase your level of aggression if you think about it, because when someone does something wrong to you, um, I mean, you at the moment you really feel, I mean, you're usually pretty mad about it, and so, I mean, your aggression levels are going to go up, and you finally, if you retaliate against a person and you finally get them back, like, you're going to be aggressive in that moment of retaliation or doing whatever you're doing in order to get that person back for what they did to you. And so the level of aggression, would in fact go up. Um, and thinking about it, you wouldn't think it would, but the more you really do think about it and how it would happen, it's pretty crazy. And so my last topic of um, priming and violence and increased levels of aggression is music. Um, music it's probably the most influential form of media that we have, and most of us listen to music every day, and we're in our different moods, and we have moods that we play different music. So we're in a happy mood, we play lots of feel good music. We're sad, we tend to play sad music that we can relate to. And at times when we're mad, we play music that may be violent. Um, and the biggest genre, I would say, of violent music happens to be rap music, just because in almost in the majority of the songs, it's shootings and guns and sexual violence, and even the way they talk about things, the verbal violence, how their demeanor and mood when they're and tone when they're talking and they're rapping about everything. It's really violent, and so music, I would say, has a very big effect on us, just because maybe it has an effect on us more than anything else, just because we listen to it more. We listen to music every day, and so I want to thank you guys for watching my video and listening to my research about priming and violence in the media. Thank you guys.